Okay, so let's talk about exosomes and why they're important and why should people know about them.
So exosomes are part of regenerative medicine. They come from stem cells.
Okay.
Stem cells are incredibly important in your body, right? Right now, we're all doctors in regenerative medicine are told to take the word stem cell off of their website, just because of the way the FDA looks at it and things like that. It's silly because all the stem cell research really is done in the U.S. They're just, used outside the country. But, most of the research is here. Most of the, not that they're not everywhere else, but like there's a lot of really top stem cell scientists here in the States, doing work. You have a lot of stem cell reserve when you're young. Amelia and I were talking about this yesterday. You're a 7th grader.
Yeah.
And you do ridiculous things.
Yes.
Right? You go off a jump that's huge, you land on the front tire, you land on your back, you get the wind knocked out of you, and then you get up and you do it again.
Yeah, and you're fine. You just
Right?
Ready to go.
That doesn't work now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, I don't know if you remember when being a kid, like you'd get a cut, and a couple of days later it was gone.
Yeah.
Right? And now older adult, you're like, well, it's taking a while to heal. Like, what's going on there, right?
Yeah.
You have greater stem cell reserve when you're younger. The older you get, the less stem cell reserve you have. The more senolytic cells you have, so it's harder for you to do things because you have things working against you. You don't have as many things working for you, and then you have lower energy. NAD levels drop. It's harder to make ATP. Like, it's just in the age. That's why aging is the disease. Right? If we can, there's a great documentary, so National Geographic, Age of Aging, and it kind of
of Aging.
Yeah, and it really goes to the science of aging is the big problem, not cardiovascular, not cancer, not this stuff. It's aging, right? Because young people, nothing really happens to them.
Yeah.
Right? Not that they don't, kids, get cancer and stuff like that, but it's really rare.
Yeah.
When your stem cells move around the body, which they're always moving, like you have so many stem cells moving from different tissues and different kinds of stem cells, they'll attach to a cell that's damaged, and they'll send exosomes into that cell. And inside the exosomes is mostly genetic material. And so they're reprogramming that cell to act differently, to make a certain protein, to like change this, the way that it's working. Viruses do that too, but they hijack the cell in a way that, helps them, not helps the cell. So genetic reprogramming, we're calling it biological reprogramming, is the future of where stem cell and exosomes are going. We want to be able to reprogram that genetics so that we can become younger and work better and have more stem cell reserve and all these types of things.
Yeah.
So that's really why you want to have exosomes, and they help things heal fast. Right? So if you put it like in your face, like your skin gets better. If you put it in a joint, your joints get better, right? So and they work differently in different tissues based on where the exosomes are coming from. So exosomes from embryonic cells or pluripotent cells have a much broader genetic material that they can transmit than ones from like musculoskeletal cells, right? So there's 3 lines of tissue in your body, and a lot of the stem cell companies are only using one.
Oh wow!
Because it's not legal, right? So these legalities is really what's holding people back.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, if you guys want to learn more, definitely go to thepazioinstitute.com and where you can learn more and, of course, schedule consult and sessions. Kind of switching gears a little bit to another topic that our audience is very interested in is peptides. And, of course, in our realms, we've heard about them a lot, but there's a lot of people starting to ask questions. So, can you talk a little bit, high-level overview of what peptides are and also why they're important?
Sure. They're defined differently depending on who you are. If you're a biochemist versus if you're the FDA and all that kind of stuff. So like anywhere from all peptides are is a sequence of amino acids. Amino acids, small molecules, and they link together to make proteins. And then those proteins fold into different shapes, and they do all types of things in your body, from collagen to receptors to all types of things. Peptides are small chains of amino acids. Some peptides are only like 4 amino acids. Some peptides are like 50 amino acids. If they start getting too long, the FDA says, "Oh, that's a biologic," and then you can't sell it as a peptide. All right, and so there's a lot of stuff that is going on about regulation of peptides right now. You want to get your peptides from a good compounding pharmacy with a prescription. Right, or have your, like we have service here. So, the service is like bundling all this stuff together, which is really the way I'd like to do it, because you don't want to just give somebody a peptide, right? You want to explain the peptide, you want to have a consult about the peptide, tell them what it's good for and what it's doing. So your body makes, and we don't know how accurate this is, somewhere around 7,000 peptides naturally. So these peptides will circulate and they'll enter into your cells, and they'll turn something on and they'll make something, or they'll turn on a process or whatever it is, right? One of the easiest peptides to get wrap your mind around is it's called Body Protection Complex 157, or BPC 157. It's released from mouth to anus, and it increases the speed of healing. So just think about like when you cut your hand, how long it takes to heal versus like you bit your inside of your cheek. Right? Or you bit your tongue really bad, right? You bite your tongue really bad and you're like, oh, and you look at it and you're like, oh, and then you wake up in the morning, you're like, wait, it's healed? Right? And you ever notice that? Like the mouth, it just heals so fast, and that's because of BPC 157. So that's been isolated, and you can inject it wherever you want to inject it, and it starts to increase the healing of that area. So a lot of athletes use that, you know? And there's a whole line of peptides, because since they're in the body and they're doing so many things, there's almost a peptide for everything.
Really is,
So, but going to somebody that's actually done some courses in peptides would be worthwhile. There was it was about 30 hours worth of work, and they certified us for peptides. And it was really a kind of an in-depth of like, what can go wrong with peptides? What are the dosing like? What's the research like? And kind of the end point of all this is that peptides are incredibly safe. Right? And that's fantastic. And mostly with what we do here, we want to do really safe things. The medical world is really resistant about doing new stuff, because a lot of new stuff is dangerous. But we already know what peptides do, because they're already circulating. We know their mechanism of action. We know how they're broken down in the body. We know what they're attaching to. We have lots of good safety data. So really, they're incredibly safe used the right way, coming from a very clean source.
And peptides, even from, I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, if people are having trouble with, like, there's peptides to help you lose weight, there's peptides to help you heal faster, there's peptides to help you even...
Cognitive enhancement, or make you tan, or, right, like everything.
A lot of cognitive stuff, which works really well. And there's a lot of athletic performance. That's where most of the peptides are being pushed, is in athletic performance. If you're getting drug tested now, you can't use peptides, most of them, because they think that they're performance enhancing. It has yet to be, really.
And they're all injectable, right?
There's some oral, there's some topical peptides, but most of them are injected.
Got it.
The origination of peptides was in the Eastern Bloc, and those were all oral.
Oh, really?
Which was odd, how they were getting that delivery. They must have been using pretty high doses of stuff, because you get broken down by the digestion and things.
Right,
We're finding that the injectables work great.
Do you feel like they'll be do you feel like peptides are kind of like the future, where they'll be a lot more well-known or well-used, or is it still...
I think they're going to explode. And I'm a little worried about peptides. Peptides should only be distributed through compounding pharmacies, right? Because their labs are, inspected, and they have to hold these really high levels of sterility and all this kind of stuff, and then you're getting it from a physician. You can get peptides online.
Yeah.
Injectable peptides online.
Wow.
I don't know why they allow that.
Yeah.
That is
Right?
crazy. Yeah.
And maybe that's being allowed, and maybe this is just me being afraid.
Yeah.
They're maybe allowing that so they can just say, oh, look what happened when we allowed peptides, and then one day they just stop.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Right? And no one can get a peptide anymore.
Yeah.
Right? So let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
but it's just good to be aware of and know that if you're going to, they are there, they are helpful, but make sure, again, not all help is the same. That you work with someone that has a very strong background and knowledge about them. And, obviously, you can go to PauseUinstitute.com and know that you're working with someone that is very knowledgeable about it.
And don't go to somebody for just peptides.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes,
Right?
it's not
The
like
whole system.
The whole system. It's about the whole system.